Hello everybody and welcome back to A Couple Books. This is Couple as per usual. So this is definitely not the third time we're recording this video, but the year has ended. It is now 2022. I am feeling 2022. Thank you, Taylor Swift. But we now need to do a wrap up and not just a normal December wrap up. We need to do like an actual wrap up of my top 10 favorite books of the year. So that is going to be the purpose of today's video. This is going to be a fun list. It's got a wide range of genres. We have urban fantasy, epic fantasy, mystery, horror. Yeah, we got everything in this. So it's going to be a fun list, and I tried to make it super fun by ensuring that there's no repeat authors and that I didn't do like 2 books in a series or anything like that, which is obviously because there's no repeat authors. So that makes sense. So with that, let's just get started in today's top 10 books of 2021. This is number 10, even though there's no actual list. I just made a list because lists are fun. But the first one is The Left-Handed Booksellers of London by Garth Nix. This is a urban fantasy story following a woman named Susan. Susan has grown up in a single-parent household, and now that she's 18, she basically wants to figure out like who her father was, and she goes off to the city, London, where she hopes to meet her father and find out more about him. And she ends up getting pulled into this secret society of magic and monsters and all these crazy things in London. And I really enjoyed this book because of its really extremely unique characters. Also the premise of these small bookstores being owned and run by a magical community that's a magical family just also seemed really intriguing to me. I really liked the magic system in this one in particular, and the world was very inviting. Number 9 on my list is going to be The Crafting of Chess by Kit Falbo. This is my first and only lit RPG pick on this list, but I particularly love this one because I thought it was a really fun one. So you follow a man, a young boy who is really gifted at chess, and he is very strategic in how he thinks. And when a new game is coming out of MMORPG, virtual reality, massive multiplayer online role-playing game. I know that was a lot of words. He signs up because he sees an opportunity to make some real money off of it, and he goes in and basically becomes the best crafter in the land. And while he's doing that, there's also other political moves that are happening in-game that we're not really sure what their consequences are, but in standard fashion with our main character, he's strategic and he's already thinking 3 moves ahead than we're even realizing. And overall, it was a really fun book. It was one of my intro books to lit RPG. I honestly think it's just such a welcoming book to the genre as a whole, and that is why I wanted to say it's my number 9 pick. Okay guys, my next big book is going to be Stuart Turton's The Devil in the Dark Water. This is a very atmospheric read. I would identify it as a horror book, and it's really quite good. But let me just tell you a little bit what it's about. It takes place in the 17th century. I think it's like mid-1600s. And we follow multiple viewpoints in this story, but basically it all takes place on a boat that is traveling from one point of Europe to another point. And on this boat, there's a lot of different people. You have the crew, you have the wealthy passengers, and you have who are in charge of the ship. This voyage starts off with some scary stuff starting off. As they're boarding onto this ship, this man is screaming about how the devil's going to take them and the devil's on the ship, and they basically say whatever, and they all get onto the ship, only to find out after a few days into their voyage that signs are showing up, animals are dying, people are seeing creepy things, and no one really knows exactly what's going on, but that's just part of the brilliance of this book. It's a slow build. You never really know what's going on until the end, and you just really love it. And it kept me guessing, it kept me turning the page, and it was just, it just really gave me the heebie-jeebies in a way that often is hard to accomplish in a book format. And overall, I just really love Stuart Turton's building of atmosphere in this story. The next one is The Stranger Times by C.K. McDonald. C.K. McDonald, I believe, goes by another name in some of his other books, but he is a comedic writer, and this is his first book in a new series that basically all revolves around a urban fantasy type setting. I believe it's in London, where there's a newspaper that is kind of like tabloid, like, oh, aliens are coming to get us and all that kind of stuff, even though aliens are probably real, but that's neither here nor there. Basically, this tabloid is one that investigates the supernatural that happens in the city. And this young woman, who's our main protagonist, she's looking for a new job. And she ends up finding out about the Stranger Times, and she ends up going to work for them. Unbeknownst to her, they actually are seriously like paranormal investigators. Like they go out and they actually try and find serious supernatural incidents that are happening in and around the city, and they end up stumbling upon an actual supernatural plot that is going on within the city. And I just really enjoyed the premise of this whole tabloid news thing and how it actually all ends up being real. I just thought it was a fun idea. I thought it was quirky. The characters were fun, and our main character was actually like really stuck out of my mind, and she was a good ride for the journey of this story. And overall, I have very little complaints, and I'm really excited for the second one. My fifth choice is going to be Age of War by Michael J. Sullivan. This is the third book in his Legends of the First Empire series. I just did a quick review on this in my last video, so I'm not going to go into a big review of the story, but the reason I love this one is that Michael J. Sullivan originally meant to end this epic fantasy series with this book. He ended up deciding to continue it on for 3 more books, which I do believe were necessary, but you really feel all of the strings coming together in this one in a way that has huge meaning and momentum behind it. There's sacrifice, there's love, there's everything in this book, and it really just like tugs at the heartstrings, and that is why it is going to be my 5th choice. But if you want to read more about this or hear more about it, be sure to check out my other video. My next one is a horror book, A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay. Paul Tremblay is an author I've talked about a lot on this channel. I love this author. I even made a video about why you should read Paul Tremblay's books. I really enjoy what he does. This is his odd horror book. I don't really know how to describe it, but basically the plot is that there's this girl, and she is, I think, the youngest. She might be the youngest, she might be the oldest, one of the two. 50-50 people. She is a child in this home, and she starts having weird episodes. And the family is unsure if it's schizophrenia, if it's some other kind of mental illness, or if she's being possessed by a demon, as any normal family would presume. Like, you know, it's either demonic possession or he's a teenager. No one really knows. But this girl is going through some really weird fits, and the father ends up going to the church and talking to the father about it, and after some guidance, they end up actually having a TV show come on to film this girl's descent in either to mental madness or into demonic possession, because we still don't know which one it is. And yet now there's a TV crew here who's watching it all unfold. And I just really love the whole idea of like a paranormal TV show. I love Paranormal Hunters. I love that kind of stuff. I know it's so stupid, but I do love it. That is what initially attracted me to this book. But I also love how Paul Tremblay constantly is leaving the doors open and letting you take your imagination that one extra step further, and you're able to really uncover what, in your own opinion, is going on. Is she being possessed by a demon? Is she schizophrenic? Is she having another kind of mental problem happen to her? It's a really fun ride, and it really leaves you questioning how we perceive mental illness. And overall, just, oh, it's a good one. People, good one. My 6th choice is The Lost Pilot Plot by Genevieve Cogman. This is 4th book in the Invisible Library series, which just released their final 8th book. But this one in particular is one of my favorites. For those who are not aware, the Invisible Library series is basically about a woman named Irene, who was a librarian who works for this invisible library that operates in between worlds, and she travels to different worlds in the multiverse, MCU style, kind of like different worlds, different timelines kind of thing. She goes to different worlds and she collects manuscripts and books and things that are unique to those worlds specifically, and she brings them back to the Invisible Library. So for example, you might in one world go and try and find the history of Europe if World War II went one way, and she in another world would go and find the history of World War II if it went the other way. And she would look for both textbooks and bring them to the Invisible Library, so they had an entire collection of all the books in the huge multiverse. But yes, so in this one in particular is one of my favorite ones because we see Irene and her assistant Kai go to 1920s America, where Prohibition is in full force. So for those who are not aware, Prohibition is when America was a dry country, where alcohol was illegal. But naturally, because people don't listen to the rules, alcohol was actually flowing quite a bit in secret underground bars. And that is pretty much the case here. We have flapperjacks, we have guns, we have gangs, we have gangsters. We've got all the things people love about that era, about that time period in terms of storytelling. And Irene is thrown into the middle of it as she's trying to hunt down this book that she needs specifically. But it is my favorite installment in the Invisible Library series by far. I have not read the last book, so that could change. But there we go. My eighth choice is going to be Jim Butcher's Peace Talks. This is the lead up to the not the final, but the most recent book in the series, Battlegrounds. This is the one where basically everyone is coming together. All of the characters we've met throughout, all the Dresden Files, all the vampires, all the councils, all the secret heebie-jeebie creatures that walk in the night. They're all coming together to a summit. And Harry's going to be at the summit. And it is going to basically be like packing the kettle that is going to explode in Battleground. And I just love seeing some of my favorite characters. Characters I haven't seen ever in the actual main storyline series. Characters like Bigfoot who I've only ever seen either mentioned or in the short story collections or the novellas. So it's really fun seeing some of these characters, actually seeing them integrate into the main storyline plot and see it all come together. I felt like Butcher was pulling all these strings together for a really epic moment. And while I really do love these books when I treat them as a whole, Peace Talks and Battleground is one whole book, this one is probably my more favorite of the two, just because I simply enjoyed seeing all the political alliances and all these things come together in this one. My ninth pick is going to be a mystery book, Crooked House by Agatha Christie. For those who are unaware, I was planning on reading all like 60 plus Agatha Christie books this year. Well, that didn't happen. I read like 4. But we're going to keep going. We're going to keep trying to read all of Agatha Christie. So, this one I did read though, Crooked House, and this is, it's the best one I've read of hers yet, and it is literally my favorite. But basically, it follows this family called the Leonides, I think is how you pronounce it. But basically, the Leonides family is this like big family that's gone quite wealthy due to the patriarch's grandfather's success in his industry, and he's basically built this massive house, and everyone lives in this house. All the children, grandchildren. I don't think there's any great-grandchildren. There might be, though. And they all live together in this house, and it's just like happy daisy, you know? But there's its own problems. The patriarch then dies. Yeah. The head of the family, the moneymaker, the person who brings home the bacon, dies. And it's kind of suspicious how he died. Here we are introduced into this family as they are currently trying to figure out who killed the grandfather and who had the motivation to and who had reasons to and how they did it. And this was such a surprising twist I never saw coming. I've read quite a few murder mysteries now, especially closed circuit murder mysteries, so I felt like I pretty much knew. I was wrong. It was really quite fun. I really quite enjoyed it. And Agatha Christie, there's a reason why she's the queen of these types of stories. So, yeah, Crooked House. And then my last pick, which is number 1, though, like I said before, people, number 10 is just as good as number 1 in this list. This is not like a list of like 1's the best, 10 is the worst, okay? But my next one is The Black-Tongued Thief by Christopher Buehlman. This is a really fun, epic fantasy adventure where basically we follow this thief who is currently scoping out the highways, trying to commit some highway robbery. He sees a woman, a knight, walking up, and he says it's an easy target. Him and his crew go on the attack to try and steal her shield and sword. She ends up pulverizing them in just every epic way possible. And instead of killing our main character, the thief, like he would probably most likely deserve in this type of situation, she ends up recruiting him on their mission. And then the story begins as our thief, our would-be thief, and our knight go on this crazy adventure that involves witches that walk on ceilings. We involve magical horses, because horses are now extinct in this world, and we just involve these characters as they go through their grand story. And overall, the reason I really enjoyed it is because it brought a lot of the cliche, common trends that we see in epic fantasy journeys. You know, we have, Terry Brooks, Sanderson, and Tolkien, who have already done the, the grand story quest over and over and over again. It's been overdone in the genre. So it's fun to see someone who takes it and brings it in, but then does something new that's refreshing to it. And in particular, what I really enjoyed about this one was the snappy dialogue. Christopher Buehlman, I'm totally pronouncing that wrong, but Christopher Buehlman definitely knows how to do dialogue, and it was sharp, it was snappy, it was quick, and that's what really kept me enthralled with the story, is just listening to or reading these characters go back and forth to one another. And that was my favorite part of the story, and it had the standard old bones that I'm used to, which made it really appealing and appetizing and an easy read. And overall, I'm so excited for the second book in this series. But I think that's pretty much it. Those are all of my books for this year. Oh, I should probably also let you guys know, I read 105 books this year. 40,000 pages, so those are the top 10. But I think that's everything for today, guys. So I'm going to do a few more videos of top 10s, top 5s as we begin 2022. But thank you guys so much for joining me. Don't forget to go down and like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know if there's any books that you guys have not read yet or that you are looking to read that you didn't get to in 2021. So, looking forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Bye now.